Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Hey, Scarlet Fu, Paul Sweeney live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, streaming live on YouTube as well. I guess midnight tomorrow, potentially the government could shut down. Is that correct?
Yeah, but we've been here before.
We've been here before.
Many times.
All right, but no matter what happens, I'm blaming our next guest on whatever happens here. Nathan Dean, he's the senior policy analyst, the only reasonable person I know in Washington, D.C. For Bloomberg Intelligence. Nathan, where are we on this whole shutdown thing?
Yeah, so, right now both sides are digging in. Both sides are talking about their points of why the other party should be responsible for a shutdown. Next up is 3 o'clock-ish this afternoon. There's going to be a meeting over at the White House between President Trump, Senator Thune, Senator Schumer, and the House leadership over what to do next. Now, I don't think you're going to see much in the way of positive news coming out of that meeting. I think that meeting is just going to essentially allow both parties to blame each other. But what I'm looking for is tomorrow morning to see what are the statements between Senator Schumer and Senator Thune about the possibility of a shutdown. Now, I was at 40% chance of a shutdown on Friday. I still think a deal is possible, most likely a one-week CR, but I also wouldn't be surprised come Wednesday morning if we come up and do another hit that I was wrong and the government is shut down.
So a one-week CR doesn't buy them a whole lot of time. Is it, the beginning of another two-week CR after that one-week CR? Because the issues that they need to discuss are pretty fundamental. The Democrats want to show the White House that they're fighting, want to show their voters, their constituents, that they're fighting the White House on healthcare issues. And these are things like permanently extending the Obamacare tax credit. That's not going to get resolved in 1 week, is it?
No. And I think right now both sides are just trying to figure out who is going to get blamed for the shutdown and the ability to protect themselves politically going into November. Because if you remember, the Republicans offered a 7-week continuing resolution. And generally speaking, the party that offers the clean CR is the one that has the high ground and ultimately doesn't get the blame in this situation. But as you point out, the Democrats need to be seen fighting President Trump here. So I think in the Democratic camp, a 1-week CR allows them to better strategize about what their message is. And potentially there's like an unofficial handshake, if you will, agreement that they'll have a vote on ACA subsidies, these healthcare subsidies that you're talking about. Potentially that's enough to show that the Democrats are fighting. But if you do get a government shutdown, I think it's going to be short-lived, because if we go into this weekend, the Democrats can say that, yes, we did fight President Trump, but then enter the Office of Management and Budget and Director Russ Vought, who has said that he's going to begin operations to lay off wide-scale, wide-scale government workers, and a lot of them are here in Virginia and Maryland. And so I would think that the Virginia and Maryland senators in particularly are going to be interested to make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, so the Republicans control the White House, they control the House, they control Senate. How do they avoid taking the blame if there is a shutdown?
Well, it's because the House has already passed a 7-week continuing resolution. In the eyes of voters, independent voters, and those of you that aren't affiliated with parties, a 7-week continuing resolution essentially just says we're going to keep the government open until November, and then we'll try and figure out a way to finalize these appropriation bills. As you remember, there's 12 appropriation bills that need to be done every fiscal year. Today's the end of the fiscal year, so obviously that's not going to happen. But the party that offers the continuing resolution is the one that says, look, we are here. We're going to keep the government open while we can continue to negotiate. But there are Republicans who are not happy with this strategy. There are some Republicans out there saying, look, we're voting for President Biden's spending levels. We're not doing anything in terms of cutting the government or trying to do in terms of other priorities. So there are Republicans out there that aren't happy with this strategy. I would also note that the House did this to pass it up until November. And what's right after November 20th? Thanksgiving. So then you're going to get into a situation where it's going to be extremely difficult for parties to potentially cause a shutdown right before the Thanksgiving holiday.
So the Republicans have threatened mass firings of federal workers, as you noted, if there is any kind of government shutdown. One of the Democrats' talking points is that the Republicans would do that regardless, that is their agenda with or without a shutdown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that the Democrats have also said is like, look, that's just a threat. Let's see it. Let's see if they actually do it. But Russ Vought has also deemed the individuals that are going to be the ones laying off workers to be essential. He's already put that out in guidance. And a lot of this is going to go to the courts no matter what. So from the Democratic perspective, their approval ratings aren't all that great. It's 30% or give or take. And there's plenty of time to come back before the November 2026 midterms in order to improve your message. This is very similar to how the Tea Party played out in 2012 when there was a shutdown threat. And they had plenty of time to come back and fix their parties, But again, this is all about momentum. And because we have a Virginia governor race in November, there's also a governor race in New Jersey. Those races are somewhat tight. I'm not sure the Democrats want to actually try and tie those two issues together.
30 seconds, Nathan. We got some congressional leaders coming to the White House today. Any reason for optimism there?
I don't think so. I think this is mostly just political messaging. And I think the big thing to keep an eye on is if President Trump signals openness to extending these ACA subsidies. That's not something that many people in his party want, but would offer the Democrats an off-ramp to get to an agreement.
All right, Nathan, thank you so much. Appreciate that. As always, the only reasonable person I know in Washington, D.C. is Nathan Dean. He understands all this stuff going on down there. He makes it easy for us to understand. Nathan Dean, senior policy analyst at Bloomberg, intelligent, worth his weight in gold, that's for sure. Particularly during times.
He
makes it make sense. I don't know why.
And it's so reasonable. It's kind of like, guys, figure it out.
Why doesn't he go to that meeting today at the White House?
Well, he's far too reasonable
and just work something out. He could say, guys, just come on, let's get together here. How hard can this be?